Welcome to the first business planning workshop for the Bright Ideas Challenge. So before we start, I want to I'm Marianne Webber. I forget that you don't know me. I'm the General Manager Business Growth for Grow Wellington. And you've had various different members of our wonderful team up here presenting to you about all kinds of different things. And today's workshop was very much about putting together what you've learnt or are learning into a business plan format. But before we start, I just want to make sure that each of you has got one of these and one of these. And you need to have a pen and be ready to write on this one. So today is a workshop, not a lecture. So I'm not going to talk to you for 2 hours and you take notes for 2 hours. Instead, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a different aspect of the business model, and then I'm going to ask you guys some questions as a way of helping you to develop your business plan. And you are very welcome to ask me questions as we go through this. Okay, so basically the process is I'm going to talk about a first section, and then you're going to have a couple of minutes to write down what you think is your answer on the business model, and then I'm going to randomly and meanly pick people to give us their answer. Now, if you want to give the others some context, I'd like you just to talk for 1 or 2 sentences about what your idea is, so that they can see the context of what you're putting into your business model. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start today with the business model, and then at the end I'm going to show you how to take the business model and put that into a business plan. Okay, the business model. What I want you to do, first of all, is I want you to draw a big circle around this business model, and in that, I want you, and attached to that circle, I want you to write the word environment. Okay, and then I want you to draw 2 boxes at the bottom. One box says timeline / action plan. The other box says risks and mitigations. And basically with those things that you've written there, you now have everything that you need to write a business plan. So a business plan generally outlines, what we're hoping to achieve, what our objective is. So if it was if you're in a real business, you'd be saying, okay, this year we want to achieve revenue of 25 million, and we want to achieve profit of 5 million, and this is our plan for how we're going to get there. In this circumstance, because typically we are developing new ideas and new businesses, we start with getting the business model right, and then we develop that business model into the business plan. Now often, and this is my experience, sorry, I should ask first, how many people here are running a business at the moment? Okay, all right, so people that are running a business are very welcome to agree or disagree with me, but the businesses that I've generally worked in, we haven't had a big business model like this. It's kind of been an unspoken thing that we just do. And I think it's been really interesting for me going through this process of the Bright Ideas, because I've realised that every business I've worked for, or managed or been part of, we've always had a business plan. But interestingly, we've very rarely had a business model that sits behind it. And I've come to realise that really the key thing that creates successful businesses is a really, really good business model. So normally when you read a business plan, the business model is articulated through the business plan, but not in a clear and distinct fashion. I think also really importantly with the business model, and I know that you've already had a seminar on this, but with your idea, really look at your business model and really think about what am I doing with my idea and my business model that is game changing. Okay, so we often think that the only way to be game changing is in this yellow box by saying I'm going to develop a new product or a new service. But there are many, many other ways of being game changing. So for example, you could take a product or a service that already exists to some degree and you could find a new target market for it. Or you could take something that already exists and totally change it through your go-to-market strategy. Okay, so we could say, for example, 2 Degrees have taken mobile phone services, which already existed, but they have created a market for themselves by changing the business model. So they've changed their go-to-market strategy, and they've changed what we would call our revenue stream or the pricing model, the way of doing it. So being successful is not always about having a new idea in terms of a new product or a new service, but you can be enormously successful by changing how something is delivered or changing who it's delivered to. And hopefully that will become a little bit clearer today. Okay, so the first section that we're going to look at is the environment. Now, the environment is absolutely crucial to your business plan, your business model, and the success of your business idea. The environment around us is always changing. So what the best business ideas will be ideas that capture some kind of, or capitalise on some kind of trend or change in the marketplace. So when you're thinking about the environment, the things to think about are, and these are only examples, and don't think, oh my goodness, I've only got 5 pages to write my business plan and they want me to write all the stuff down. Just think about what is relevant to you and what the key trends are that could possibly impact on your business model. So there are things like regulatory, so that, for example, if you were in the business of selling alcohol at the moment, you would be perhaps quite interested in the proposed regulatory reforms about where alcohol can be sold in New Zealand, and also other discussions about what the drinking age should be. So think about, are there any regulatory trends or changes that could affect you? If you're an apple grower, you will currently be very happy that you can now, through regulatory changes, export apples to Australia. Technology, that's a huge one. And for pretty much, for 90% of the bright ideas that I've read, technology and trends in technology is the major driver of the business idea. So make sure that you think about, identifying what those trends are and how whatever you're doing capitalises on those trends. So, an example would be, I don't know, is anybody in this room thinking about making an iPhone, an app of some kind? Okay, so great, I don't know, 5 years ago, I'm not sure how many years ago, 10 years ago, definitely that was not possible, but now it is. So think about the technology trends that will work for you and against you. Societal and cultural trends, socio-economic trends, also very important. So the big trend that we're seeing at the moment, of course, is around people caring a lot more for the planet and caring a lot more particularly about how much rubbish is being disposed of, how much energy is being used in either making something or to use it at home. So if you're thinking of a product or an idea which is more energy saving than somebody else's idea, or has less waste associated with it, then you are sort of on a key trend. Think also with your target market, think about the market forces and things that are affecting them as a target market. So think about things that could be making, your market segment that you're aiming at, things that are making it grow, making the segment get bigger, get smaller, things that are changing those market segments' needs and demands. Interestingly, we are sponsoring a small event for 15-year-olds about entrepreneurship and innovation, and we offered them an iPod Nano, and they said no thanks. They want an iPad or nothing. And I just thought, isn't that, but that's, that market segment of teenagers has just changed so much. Think also, market issues, switching costs are important. You know yourself, I'm sure some of you will be Telstra Clear customers, some of you will be Telecom customers. It's not always that easy to switch from one supplier to another. Macroeconomic forces, global market trends, capital markets. So at the moment, we are, depending on which economic commentators you read, we are either in a flat market or perhaps beginning to come slightly out of a recession. But people behave differently in recessions. We want to, more people shop at Pack and Save. Less people go out for dinner. Actually, that's not true. How people go out for dinner has changed. So think about those global market trends. I think our little helper has left us, unfortunately. He might come back. Capital markets, very important for quite a few of you. In the last 5 or so years, capital to set up a business has been enormously hard to come by. Okay? Capital is currently less hard to come by. So think about what that means for your business. Think about supplies that you need for your business. So for example, if anybody here was interested in setting up a coffee business, you need to be watching the commodity prices for coffee. Are they going up? Are they going down? Are they going to make your business model prohibitive? Industry forces, also very important. What are your competitors doing? What are the standards in the industry? What are the substitutes for your products and services? Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, and look, I should say also for all of these, this is just a very brief overview today. There's lots more that you can read about environmental forces, and I suggest if you want to read more, you go on to websites like business.govt.nz and just put in the search column environment, and up will come a number of things for you to think about. But what I'd like you to do now is just spend a couple of minutes and just think, just from what I've said, what are some environmental trends or changes that could positively affect your business idea or negatively? Whatever's happening in the external environment can be creating an opportunity for you, or it can be creating a threat. And whatever's happening in the environment could be a good thing for your competitors, or could not be a good thing for your competitors. So, and as you develop your businesses, always keep an eye on that environment and keep thinking about how you adapt to those changes. Okay, so now I'm going to choose a couple of people. If you'd like to, just very quickly say what your idea is and then what some of the environmental aspects are that could impact on you. So I'll start with the lady in the blue. Yes?
Our idea is it's a data management service for a specific infrastructure, sort of worldwide infrastructure body. And pretty much, I think, one of the interesting things about our idea is it does exist, but it exists in a different industry. And
Right.
that particular industry is regulated to provide the service. The industry that we're looking at going into isn't regulated to provide the service. So we have to kind of almost find the reasons why people would actually do this without being forced. And it's cost effective for them.
Right.
Save lots of money, that sort of thing. So there's lots of regulatory standards and substitute products and services could probably be our major issues.
Great.
Because it's into a business idea, a lot of the actual sort of more consumer-orientated things aren't really as applicable.
And what about, does the economy affect you? Like if
It's a big industry. It's so yes and no. There's huge companies involved in this industry.
Yeah.
We talk about Siemens and
Yeah.
AUBs and the big worldwide companies. So in terms of from where we're sitting, they've got lots of money, and our particular idea wouldn't be so expensive as to be a sort of a capital issue for them.
Great.
So, yeah, we're hoping that it fits in under the radar almost.
Okay. And what about the gentleman? Yeah.
I'm Greg Nelson from M Commerce Limited.
Hi.
So we're in the monetising mobile phone business.
Okay.
Technology trends. So 25 billion was the annual spend on delivering advertisements through a mobile environment in 2005. That's now increased 2011 to 115 billion. It's the biggest advertising platform for marketers in the world. In fact, it's stealing market share off all your traditional media. So we're delivering this through a conduit called Never Late, which is a text reminder service, which is free. You go to the website and enter in all your reminders for personal and business and lifestyle things. We then deliver messages that are relevant to those, advertisements that are relevant to those messages that reminders that you've asked for.
Yeah.
And it's a free service, so I think the uptake, 28% of the New Zealand market now has a smartphone. That's
Great.
growing.
Okay, so that's a trend. So a trend clearly is that smartphone numbers are going through the roof. Yep.
And that's expected to grow to upwards to 70% by the end of 2013.
Yep.
In Korea, for example, smartphone ownership smartphone ownership is at 85% with 100% ownership of mobile devices.
Yeah.
It's a global opportunity. So pretty much mobile advertising is where our space is.
Okay, that's great. Does anybody else want to share? Yes? Very quiet, okay. But you can see these different trends, and every business has them, but they're not all the same. They are, obviously global economic trends normally affect most people, but generally every business idea has got its own specific environment that it needs to be cognizant of. Okay, so now we're doing this section of the business plan. So we're doing the target market. Now the reason that we're doing the target market before the concept is that it's really important that you think, firstly, what is the environment and what are the trends and what are the opportunities that that's creating for me? But then secondly, that you think about who are markets that are currently not served. Because it's really easy for us, and New Zealanders, and I'm so sorry I did it again, I'm forgetting to tell our lovely man here when I start speaking again. The New Zealanders are really, really good. We lead the world at inventing things. Okay, we're spectacular inventors. But what we don't do very well is look at the environmental trends and look at the markets and then develop products for those markets. So that's why I really strongly encourage you to look first, before you look at your product or your service, really look at that at those markets and what's happening within those markets. Okay, so very simply, you're looking for a solid market opportunity. You're looking to find out who is going to buy from you and why. What proof do you have that your target market exists? And how motivated would they be? Okay, we've got some information here, which is on the table. This is just a very simple market validation guide. So before you invent your solution, you need to try to ask some people about what they are looking for. Okay, now there's been a whole seminar on market validation, so I won't litigate that here, but there are really great free tools that are available, like SurveyMonkey, Google Survey, which is on Google Docs, things like that, where you can very easily, for a consumer product that is, you can put together a really quick little survey and you can ask people questions, and people are often surprisingly very generous with their time. So just a recent example was we had a woman who wanted to create gourmet dog treats, which is wonderful. And but in her survey she asked people like, do you want this? How much would you be prepared to pay for it? But also, what was really important was around what time of day do you want to buy these treats and at what location. Because for me personally, I love my dogs, but I'm not going to go to Animali's in Miramar to buy the dog treats. If I'm going to buy my dogs a treat, I treat them like children, because that's the big trend in animals. So I want to be able to, in the same way, if I'm working late, I might buy my children that I don't have, but if I had them, I might buy them some little chocolates from Butler's Chocolate, because that's just around the corner, because that's what, like my mum, when she worked, she'd buy us little treats on the way home when she was late. So I want to do the same behaviour for my dog. So that's where something like a survey can really help you, because it moves you from thinking about what you might like to do and what works for you to actually how the world might like to buy from you. And also, very important, don't ever ask your family and friends what they think of your business idea, because they will invariably say to you, it's fantastic, it's amazing, I've never heard of such a great thing, I'll pay you twice what you're suggesting, all that kind of thing. So they're not a very useful gauge for you. And that's why something like a SurveyMonkey or a Google survey can get you much more objective feedback. But also a survey does not overcome the need to actually talk to people, because that's the difference between quantitative information and qualitative information. And sometimes you just can't tell until you actually start talking to people how they feel about something. Now, something that's also really important is how motivated are people? Because often you can describe all sorts of things to me, and I say, yeah, that's great, but how motivated am I to actually go out and buy it? And that motivation problem is a really big problem worldwide, because we are so overwhelmed with choice and so low on time. That's why I love your idea, because you are delivering it to people. But often, there's just so many things. Like, I bet all of you can just sit here and think of half a dozen things that you'd love to do and you've been meaning to do for years, but you've actually never done it. There's just so many things like that. And also, importantly, of course, simply, how big is the market? Now there are advantages and disadvantages of going for a big market. If you go for a market that's a big market, like let's say the global youth market, on one side that's really easy. The other problem with that though is there's going to be lots and lots of competitors there. So it's not necessarily that big is the best or smallest is the best, it's knowing what you can create a sustainable business model about, or on I should say. Okay, now there are actually lots of different kinds of customer segments, but these are the sort of the main kinds. Okay, so customer segment, mass market. So you'd say that Pack and Save to a degree is mass market. We've created our barn, everybody come and buy your goods. Genesis Energy, mass market, come here, buy your electricity. A niche market, which is very important, it sounds like what you might be doing, is very much, and a niche market can be really small. It can be one buyer and one supplier. But typically it talks about, a niche market is about a very, very small group of people with a very clearly defined want or need. And there's differences depending on, so your business model changes depending on what kind of market you choose. A segmented market is, as it says up there, a segment within the mass with slightly different needs or wants. So you're not going up against all the big mass market operators, you're finding a subset defined in various different ways on that of that mass. And sometimes you'll get within and this is more of a company, but you may find that sometimes people will go, they will have their business and they'll have a very diversified, they'll have different diversified segments. So they'll be segmenting one market over here and then a totally different market over here. So you'll see that with car manufacturers. So they'll have one market for cars, one type of car that's, say, $16,000, and then another brand of car which is $60,000. And they're going for very different markets. Multi-sided platforms have been around for a long time, but we're seeing a lot more business models around a multi-sided platform. The classic example of a multi-sided platform is Visa. So Visa have two sets of customers. They have the merchants that need to make, to accept the Visa cards, and they need the consumers that need to use the Visa cards. So you've probably got a multi-sided platform because you've got people that are going to advertise, and then you've got people that actually need to read the advertisements and take some action as a result of them. So quite often, digital and technology players will quite often be in some form, some kind of multi-sided platform. TradeMe is also a multi-sided platform because you've got traders, buyers and sellers. Okay, your target market, you can slice and dice it any way that you like. There is no set formula. You could do it by demographics. We're going for the 40 plus market. You could do it psychographically. We're going for all the insecure people in New Zealand. It could be needs based. It can be really any way that works in terms of the business model. But just with the target market, and again this goes back to surveying people and validating things, is that really try and get evidence of the need, Because something that people think is nice in this market is incredibly hard to sell. Something that people actually need, where you're solving a problem for someone, or you're saving time for someone, or you're saving money for someone, or you're making someone feel better about themselves. You know, if you've got a real need that you are solving, your chances of being successful will just be so much greater. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is just think about your target market in terms of the environment and now who that target market is. Are they, for you, is it a mass market, a niche market, segmented market, and what are their characteristics? Rochelle, what have you got for your target market?
Thanks, Mary. This is probably the one I'm struggling with the most. Just to give a bit of context, I'm a co-owner of a scuba dive training company, and so the idea really is to establish or make use of an established network of sensors, so underwater sensors, which then transfer information to potentially the scuba diving community around visibility underwater and temperature and other parameters that people might be interested in. So that's a market, but it's become quite clear that there might be multiple other markets. Anyone really who's interested in understanding information about the underwater environment, so the research community, local government involved in environmental monitoring. So I'm at this stage I'm thinking it's diversified, but don't really know where to go beyond there.
Okay, that's great. But you can see how the things flow together. So this is a really interesting conversation, because you can see the more you look at this business model, how much you need all these things to flow through, because if you're not clear on your target market, then you can't be clear on what your value proposition is, and then you can't be clear on your go-to-market strategy. And although that's usually okay when your business is really tiny, as it gets bigger, it basically falls apart, because you try and please everybody and you appear enormously schizophrenic, and mostly what you do is waste a lot of money and a lot of effort trying to be all things to all people. And then if you're terribly unlucky, a competitor comes along and does whatever you're doing in a better, more organised fashion. So that business model thinking is really important, but it's interesting what you say, because you've picked up on the market trend, because I'm gluten-free, that gluten-free, vegan, I care I want it to look beautiful, but I also care a lot about what are the ingredients. It's quite a big market trend, and how do you bring together that with sort of the traditional I want really good flavours like what your dad wants. So it's an interesting conundrum. Okay, very good. Okay, so now we're on to the central part of the business model, which is the concept. Okay, so very important again, before you work out physically what your product is that you look at, which I think is where the part you need to probably work on, your value proposition and your customer benefit. Okay, so value propositions and these are just a list of different ones. There's all sorts of different value propositions, but try and keep the value proposition really simple. Like if you can't explain your value proposition in one short sentence as opposed to one A4 page sentence, then you haven't really got a value proposition. You've got a messy, lots of different things to lots of different people. But some of the more common value propositions are around newness. So iPad, yes, it's great, but its whole thing is that it's new. It's to use a word my father would use. It's nifty. It's so it's not. It's really its major thing is it's something new. It's something different. It's a different way of doing things. Performance is a very common value proposition. So I'm bringing out this new product which performs better meets your needs better than anybody else in the market. So that can be, it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot greener, it's a lot faster to get it to you. A girl at work is getting married, and she just told me she's been around wedding dress shops in Wellington, and they have all told her that it takes 5 months to make a wedding dress. Now that's unbelievable. She said to me, I don't know how those people can still be in business, because there must be someone out there that can create a better business model where they turn around wedding dresses in 4 weeks rather than 5 months. Customisation is becoming a really big value proposition for many customers. Things like now, you can choose what you want your homepage to look like. You can customise your homepage. I'm sure people can customise their cupcakes, all sorts of things. It sounds like you've got, with what you're doing, there'll be an amount of customisation. So that's often a value proposition. The competitors can't customise, I can. Getting the job done is a very straightforward value proposition. So if I am a lawn mowing man and you are very frustrated because you don't have time to mow your lawns, I get the job done for you. And that's, again, a very common value proposition. Design. This product is better designed than any other product. So that the wonderful, huge Wellington success story that we have around that is Formway. So Formway make the world's best office chairs. And they've won many awards all around the world, and we're a flagship company for New Zealand, for Wellington exports. They didn't invent office chairs, they just made a much, much better design. Brand and status is also a very important value proposition. If you can come out with the best or the new best, then that can be a proposition in itself. Price, again, thinking about the environment, what's important in a global recession is price. If you can do it cheaper than anybody else can, then you can have a value proposition in that. And so, for example, in this recession, and I'm sorry I can't remember the names, but you would have seen the emergence of, instead of real estate agents, systems where you can sell your house by yourself. And so you can, you pick up the placards by yourself and all this kind of thing. It's great though, because, for the people that have been successful doing that, they've saved themselves, $20,000. So again, very strong value proposition around price. Cost reduction, often very important in B2B type sales. Risk reduction. So there's a number of companies at the moment that are getting a lot of airtime because they are companies that reduce risks around earthquakes. Because at the moment we care a lot about that. So it's a very valid proposition. Accessibility. My product or my service is more accessible than someone else's. So for example, which was very strange when it first started, but now is just run of the mill, when supermarkets started being open through late hours. And now we just think, oh well, go to the supermarket at 10 o'clock, that's fine. Convenience, usability. Okay, so just value proposition. The main things that you're thinking about is, what pain do you solve? What is your solution, and what are the benefits to the buyer? What needs do you meet? And importantly, what proof do you have that your concept or idea is original, and preferably original worldwide, if you can. If you're planning to have an export business, that is. What value do you deliver to the customer? What customer needs are we satisfying? And again, the value proposition can come from different parts of the business model. Okay? So you may say, Actually, my product is much of a muchness of everybody else's, but my value proposition is in my go-to-market strategy. My products are available somewhere that is more convenient than what my competitors are. Or I've been able to do something very clever with my pricing, which means that my product, although it's the same as everybody else's, is available a lot cheaper than anybody else's is. And the next part of the concept is simply, what is it? The features and functions. Okay, so that's the physical description of what this product actually is. So what I'd like you to do now, again, is go back into your business model and just write down what you think the value proposition and the customer benefit is. I'm going to choose 2 people to talk about their value proposition. What about these 2 ladies up the back here?
Is that us?
That's you, yes.
Okay, my name's Vivian, this is Sarah.
Hi.
Our business idea is medical transcription services online.
Yes.
And our sort of value proposition is cost. We see ourselves as a niche global market. And certainly for that global market, say for Europe and the UK, cost would be possibly half of what they're paying now. And convenience, we can type while they sleep and have work back in their inbox the next morning. The private sector, the public health system globally, we feel, is declining, and so more and more people are going into private practice, so there are a bigger market for us.
Yeah.
There's also the alternative medical world, which is becoming bigger as people take on or consider their healthcare themselves. Yes. So it's another market. But mainly our value propositions are convenience and cost.
Great. Okay, so you're going to provide the same service that's already available,
yes,
but you're going to do it cheaper,
yes,
and more conveniently.
Yes.
That is great. What about you? Yeah.
My name's Roland. I'm looking to start up an online education subscription service for children, mostly in Asia, but all around the world, to focus on English literacy and ESL. It taps into a rather diverse, I'd say segmented market, where it focuses on children wanting to learn, children's parents wanting their children to learn English in a fun, interactive way that utilizes modern technology, classrooms or home use. It gives them also the advantages of a native speaker and colourful, bright concepts for them to learn with.
Great.
So the function is not really to give them a prestigious place to learn, like where you find these schools where they have, uniforms and special education services all prettied up and everything, but rather it's an affordable service for the middle class that's growing, so that everyone can get an edge in the education.
So it's interesting, with both of you talking, I can hear you. I can hear how the environment is affecting what you're doing. The health sector, it's growing hugely. People have much less time, but there's a lot of pressure on budgets. So I can see what you're doing. I can see what your target market is. I can see what your value proposition is. I can see with your one, there are environmental trends that are influencing what you're doing. You've got a clear target market, and you've got a value proposition. So what is your value proposition? What are you going to do better, or what's it? Just very?
It's providing materials that are up to date with today's technology.
Okay, so that's not a value proposition though, because that's not giving someone value. Is it because they can do it at home?
Yeah.
And is it because it's cheaper?
It can also be applied to the classroom for schools that don't have a native English speaker in them.
Okay. Also, though, probably what it's doing is so the value proposition is it's using computers, which kids love. So it's what they are wanting to do rather than being in a classroom, which is boring. And it can be done at home, and it's cheaper. So, and you've got two different target markets, haven't you? Because you've got the kids and you've got the parents.
And the educators.
And the educators. Yeah. So that's it's quite hard though to describing the feature. The feature is a technology. The value is kids like working with technology. So try and think about the value proposition is the what's in it for me. This is really great. This is really great to hear people being so clear